This is Hurricane Helene, the deadliest U.S. storm since Katrina. And as shocking as that is, the rest of the video is just as insane. From a factory cauldron erupting in molten metal to the Beirut port blast wiping out everything in seconds. But first, we start at number 6, an elderly man fighting for his life against 2 pit bulls. August 26th, 6 a.m., an elderly man walks alone down a quiet street, minding his own business. Then 2 pit bulls spot him. They don't hesitate. They charge straight at him, jumping, lunging, attacking with pure aggression. The man tries pushing them away, but these dogs are relentless. They keep circling, biting, pushing him around like prey. Watch as he pulls out a box cutter, trying desperately to fight them off, but it doesn't work. The dogs keep attacking, jaws snapping at his arms and legs. Then he goes down. Both dogs pile on top of him, biting his head multiple times, tearing into his flesh. Finally, a neighbor rushes out with a huge stick and drives them away. But even then, one vicious dog keeps trying to return for more. Witnesses say he was barely hanging on to life before being airlifted away. The dogs had mauled him so badly, ripping him up from head to limbs. But animal attacks? Wait until you see our ultimate entry, where nature turned entire towns into apocalyptic wastelands. First though, watch what happens when the Earth itself decides to play dominoes. Russia, an M8.8 earthquake hits a supermarket, and someone's camera captures something fascinating and eerie. Look at the top of those shelves, 6 ceramic heads lined up perfectly like silent observers. As the earthquake intensifies, the heads start falling. One by one, they tumble from the shelves, smashing on the ground in a bizarre, almost choreographed destruction. It's oddly hypnotic watching them fall, crash, 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 as the ground keeps shaking violently beneath. By the end of the video, only 4 heads remain standing. Everything else shattered across the floor. But earthquakes at least give you warning shakes. What comes next happens in an instant, and it's a factory worker's ultimate nightmare. At first glance, this looks like a normal factory pot. Then you see a human walk up to inspect it, and you realize this is a massive cauldron filled with molten metal. That just screams disaster waiting to happen. But everything seems under control. The worker inspects it, walks away, and a crane begins lifting the enormous pot of molten goodness. Then the crane gives up, just quits. The cauldron tips and molten metal spills everywhere. Instant explosion. No warm-up, no slow burn. Everything erupts in a massive fireball. I'm sure you didn't see that coming. The entire factory floor is destroyed, burning in intense heat. Even the surveillance camera feels it. Watch the color change from the temperature spike. This is what nightmares are made of in industrial work. One crane malfunction, and suddenly you're running from a river of liquid fire, consuming everything in its path. The explosion happened so fast, there was 0 time to react. 1 second, routine operation. The next second, hell on earth. But at least factory workers can evacuate. What happens next shows what occurs when you ignore warnings and drive straight into danger. From the footage, you can see that water has gone on its rampage again. Everywhere is flooded, and a bunch of cars sit lined up on the other end, waiting for the flood to pass. But one Toyota mini truck driver decides he's different. He's going to race through that massive flood like he has no self-preservation instinct. At first, it seems impressive. The truck pushes through the churning water with determination. But the water shows him who's boss. The truck gets stuck, moving forward and backward, trapped in the current with nowhere to go. Good Samaritans rush in and push the truck back to where it came from. If he'd spent another moment there, the water would have drowned his vehicle completely. But wait, that's not all. A few seconds later, you see the same truck moving through the water again. This time, he makes it across to the other side. Lucky him. But somebody else wasn't so fortunate. Another driver didn't even try to move through the water, but the water came to him and swept his car away like a toy. Life has no recipe. One man's reckless gamble pays off. Another man's cautious waiting gets him swept away anyway. Note to self, if the water looks angry, maybe just stay home. But this flood It's nothing compared to what's coming in our number one spot, where over 220 people lost their lives. First, watch what happens when an entire port facility explodes. Beirut Port. A group of people watch thick fumes rising from a building. And they aren't the only ones. Another camera miles away captures the same smoke drifting over the city. They begin moving away. Something in their gut tells them this isn't right. The fumes grow darker, heavier. From the distant angle, the smoke thickens slowly, building into something far worse, though no one realizes it. As soon as they leave, the first explosion erupts. It's powerful, but too far to reach them, yet close enough to show how unstable the situation really is. On the faraway camera, that blast looks contained, a bright fireball, violent but unable to touch the buildings. The shock fades fast, yet the smoke keeps rising, stretching wider and higher. Then the second camera captures what no one was ready for. The smoke pulls inward for an instant, then erupts outward in a colossal shockwave. It fills the entire frame, tearing through the skyline and nearly disintegrating every building before the video cuts out. Amid the destruction, one detail stands out. The solar panels still standing while everything around them is obliterated. But this isn't the end. What comes next is the moment this entire video has been building toward. It started with wind, just wind. Trees swayed, bending under the pressure of this wind. People filmed from their windows, still believing this might pass like other storms had. But then the wind turned heavy, violent. Trees didn't just bend, they snapped, toppled, crashed through roofs and power lines. The storm was intensifying faster than forecasts predicted. Then came the rain. Not ordinary rain, but torrential sheets of water that fell so hard, visibility dropped to zero. The storm unleashed rainfall, estimates topping more than 2 feet in some areas, the worst flooding North Carolina had seen in a century. Within minutes, apartments flooded so rapidly that residents were ankle-deep in water inside their own homes, trapped with no safe exit. Mudslides triggered by the torrential rain consumed entire buildings, burying homes and roads under tons of debris and mud. Landslides swept away everything in their path. Hurricane Helene became the deadliest storm to hit the U.S. mainland since Hurricane Katrina 2 decades earlier. More than 220 people were killed across 6 states, 103 confirmed deaths in western North Carolina alone, 17 in eastern Tennessee. The majority of deaths came from torrential rain triggering landslides and catastrophic flooding, and from gale force winds toppling millions of trees. Sadly, about a dozen people remain unaccounted for. Tens of thousands of homes, businesses, roads, and critical infrastructure were destroyed or damaged. The cost in North Carolina alone reached almost $60 billion. The damage filmed at Biltmore, Asheville, North Carolina looked like the end of the world. Cars overturned and abandoned on roads. Houses and buildings ripped apart. Sources of livelihood destroyed. Major roads torn to pieces. Towns once active and bubbling now sat deserted and ruined, like the aftermath of an apocalypse. Some buildings remained flooded with water days later. Restoration will take years and resources most communities don't have. Western North Carolina faced a humanitarian crisis. Helene unleashed devastation on a scale that rewrites disaster response books. It proved that even in modern America, with all the technology and warnings, nature can still overwhelm the country completely. Lives were lost, businesses were ruined, and the survivors will spend years rebuilding what Hurricane Helene destroyed in just a few catastrophic hours. Next time, we'll see footage from inside a house being ravaged by an EF4 tornado with 324 km/h winds. Then, a Fort Worth vehicle pileup where cars keep crashing into each other in an endless chain reaction. So, yeah, maybe today's a good day to stay indoors. But don't just scroll, click this video before the next storm hits.